Hey everyone! Thanks for tuning in to Cheating Tales Lab. We've got another captivating story to share with you today, and we hope it's one you'll love. Let's dive straight into it. Mitch Fink's hands moved with precision over the circuit board, the soldering iron leaving trails of silver in its wake. The acrid smell of flux filled his garage workshop. He'd lost track of time, as he often did when immersed in his latest robotics project. A familiar voice drifted through the open window, interrupting his focus. Tiffany. His wife's tone was hushed, conspiratorial. Mitch's ears perked up involuntarily. Once he signs over the new business to me, I'll say I need space, Tiffany said, a hint of smugness coloring her words. By then, I'll have enough proof to make it look like he's cheating. I'll get half of everything in the divorce. He'll never see it coming. The soldering iron clattered to the workbench. Mitch's mind raced, gears turning as he processed what he'd just heard. Who was she talking to? How long had this been in the works? What kind of proof was she fabricating? Why would she want to destroy their marriage? How could he protect himself and his life's work? He felt like he'd been sucker-punched. 5 years of marriage, and this was how it was going to end? With Tiffany trying to fleece him and destroy everything he'd built? Mitch's shock quickly gave way to cold anger. His hand moved to his pocket, fishing out his phone. With a few quick taps, he started recording. Let's see how smug she feels when this gets played back in court, he thought grimly. As Tiffany's voice continued to drift through the window, Mitch strained to hear more details. Don't worry, buddy, Tiffany cooed. I've got it all planned out. Mitch is so wrapped up in his robots, he hasn't got a clue. By the time we're done, we'll be set for life. Mitch's jaw clenched. Buddy. So that was the name of the snake she was conspiring with. He filed that information away for later. The conversation outside wrapped up, and Mitch heard the front door open and close. He waited a beat, then made his way into the house. Tiffany was in the kitchen, humming to herself as she poured a glass of wine. She looked up as he entered, flashing a smile that now seemed as fake as a $3 bill. Hey honey, how's the tinkering going? She asked brightly. Mitch forced himself to smile back, while rising in his throat. Oh, you know, making progress. How was your afternoon? Just catching up with some girlfriends, Tiffany replied smoothly. Nothing exciting. Mitch nodded, marveling at how easily the lies rolled off her tongue. He wondered how many other casual deceptions he'd swallowed over the years. Well, I'm going to grab a shower, he said, already planning his next move. Been cooped up in that garage too long. Tiffany waved him off, turning her attention back to her phone. As Mitch climbed the stairs, his mind was clear. The shock had passed, replaced by cold determination. If Tiffany wanted a war, she'd get one. And Mitch intended to emerge victorious. Over the next week, Mitch became a man on a mission. Every spare moment was devoted to gathering intel, building his case. He moved with purpose, always careful to maintain a facade of normalcy around Tiffany. His first order of business was surveillance. While Tiffany was out one afternoon, Mitch installed hidden cameras in their home office and living room. The tiny lenses, nearly invisible to the naked eye, would capture every move, every whispered conversation. Next, he reached out to Sydney Best, a private investigator recommended by a colleague. Best was ex-military, with a reputation for discretion and results. Mitch laid out the situation in a terse phone call. I need eyes on my wife, he said bluntly. Her schedule, her contacts, anywhere she goes that isn't work or home. Can you handle that? Best's voice was cool, professional. Consider it done, Mr. Fink. I'll have a full report for you by week's end. Good, Mitch replied. And Best? Discretion is key. If she catches wind of this, it's both our asses. Understood, sir. I'm a ghost. With outside surveillance in place, Mitch turned his attention inward. Late one night, while Tiffany slept, he carefully copied financial records and emails from their shared computer. The more he dug, the uglier the picture became. Large transfers from their joint account to an unknown recipient. A series of hotel reservations under a false name. Emails to a divorce attorney discussing strategy and asset division. Each new piece of evidence was like a knife twisting in Mitch's gut, but he pushed the pain aside, channeling it into cold, methodical action. He was building a fortress of facts, and when the time came, He'd use it to crush Tiffany's schemes. By the end of the week, Mitch had amassed a damning dossier. Best report confirmed his worst suspicions. Tiffany had been meeting regularly with a man named Buddy Birch, a smooth-talking financial advisor with a reputation for shady deals. Mitch pored over the surveillance photos, his face hardening as he saw Tiffany laughing, touching Buddy's arm, leaning in for kisses. It was all there in stark black and white. As the pieces fell into place, Mitch realized the depth of Tiffany's betrayal. This wasn't just about leaving him. She was systematically dismantling their life together, piece by piece. And she'd been doing it right under his nose. The final straw came when Mitch uncovered emails discussing the transfer of his new robotics company to Tiffany's name. She was going after everything: his marriage, his assets, and now his life's work. Rage boiled inside him, threatening to spill over. He'd been patient, gathering evidence, playing the long game. But enough was enough. It was time to confront the woman who'd betrayed him so thoroughly. Mitch found Tiffany in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone with a bored expression. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come. "Planning a trip, Tiffany?" he asked, his voice deceptively calm as he slid printouts of the hotel reservations across the counter. Tiffany's head snapped up, her eyes widening for a fraction of a second before narrowing dangerously. "You've been snooping," she hissed, all pretense of affection evaporating. "Funny, that's not a denial," Mitch replied, his tone hardening. "Want to tell me about your plans for divorce? Or should we talk about the money you've been siphoning from our accounts?" Tiffany's face contorted with rage. "You don't know what you're talking about," she spat. "And if you think you can intimidate me, you've got another thing coming." "Intimidate you?" Mitch let out a harsh laugh. "I'm just getting started, sweetheart. By the time I'm done, you'll be lucky if you can afford a cardboard box to live in." Tiffany's eyes flashed dangerously. "You think you're so clever, don't you? Well, let me tell you something, Mitch. I've got enough dirt on you to bury your reputation 6 feet under. One word from me, and everyone will think you're a lying, cheating scumbag." "Go ahead," Mitch challenged, his voice low and menacing. "Try it, because I've got the receipts, Tiffany. The affair, the financial fraud, all of it. You really think anyone's going to believe your lies when I'm done?" For a moment, fear flickered across Tiffany's face. Then her expression hardened into a mask of contempt. "You'll regret this, Mitch," she snarled. "I swear to God, you'll wish you'd never crossed me." "No, Tiffany," Mitch countered, his voice cold as ice. "You're the one who's going to regret this. You think you can play me for a fool? Take everything I've worked for? Think again." Tiffany's lip curled in disgust. "Oh, please. You and your precious robots. You know what your problem is, Mitch? You're so caught up in your little inventions, you couldn't see what was right in front of you." A real man would have noticed his wife slipping away. Mitch's eyes narrowed. A real wife wouldn't have been spreading her legs for the first smooth-talking con man who came along. The sound of Tiffany's slap echoed through the kitchen. Mitch's head snapped to the side, his cheek stinging. But when he turned back to face her, his eyes were hard, unyielding. "That's the last time you'll ever lay a hand on me," he said quietly. "Now get out of my house." "Your house?" Tiffany laughed, the sound brittle and harsh. "We'll see about that. When I'm done with you, you won't have a pot to piss in." With that, she stormed out of the kitchen. The front door slammed moments later, the sound echoing through the suddenly empty house. Mitch stood alone in the kitchen, his heart pounding. He knew he'd just fired the opening salvo in what was sure to be a brutal war. But as the adrenaline faded, a smile spread across his face. Let her come at him with everything she had. He was ready. And by the time this was over, Tiffany would learn the hard way that she'd picked the wrong man to betray. Mitch pulled out his phone, scrolling through his contacts until he found the name he was looking for. The phone rang twice before a gruff voice answered. "Raul? It's Mitch. Remember that favor you owe me? I'm calling it in. I need the best damn divorce lawyer you know, and I need them yesterday." As he hung up, Mitch's resolve hardened. The game was on, and he intended to win. Tiffany had no idea what was coming for her. Mitch Fink sat at his desk, the glow of his computer screen illuminating his face in the darkened home office. The confrontation with Tiffany still burned in his mind, but he pushed the anger aside. Now was the time for action, not emotion. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number he hadn't used in years. After 3 rings, a gruff voice answered. Raul Mason. Raul, it's Mitch. I need your help. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Mitch? Damn, it's been a while. What's going on? Mitch took a deep breath. I need a divorce attorney. The best you've got. Raul's tone sharpened. Shit. Tiffany? Yeah. It's bad, Raul. Really bad. All right, give me the rundown. Mitch laid out the situation in terse, efficient sentences. Raul listened without interrupting, occasionally grunting in acknowledgement. When Mitch finished, Raul let out a low whistle. She's playing hardball, huh? Well, lucky for you. Hardball's my specialty. I'll clear my schedule. We're going to bury her, Mitch. A smile spread across Mitch's face. That's what I was hoping you'd say. With Raul on board, Mitch's next call was to Sydney Best. The PI answered on the first ring. Mr. Fink, what can I do for you? I need you to keep eyes on Tiffany. Full surveillance. I want to know every move she makes, every person she talks to. Understood. I'll get right on it. Mitch hung up, feeling a sense of control returning. He was building his team, preparing for the fight ahead. The next morning, Mitch drove to his sister Shannon's house. She opened the door, took one look at his face, and pulled him into a fierce hug. What's wrong? She asked, concern etched on her features. Mitch followed her inside and collapsed onto her couch. In halting sentences, he told her everything. Shannon's expression hardened as she listened. When he finished, she gripped his hand tightly. You listen to me, Mitch. That bitch isn't going to win. Whatever you need. A place to stay, someone to talk to, anything. I'm here. Mitch squeezed her hand back, grateful for her unwavering support. Thanks, Sean. I might need to take you up on that safe house offer. Shannon nodded firmly. Anytime, day or night. With his personal support system in place, Mitch turned his attention to his professional life. He arranged a meeting with his business partner, Donnie Strickland, at a quiet coffee shop across town. Donnie listened intently as Mitch outlined the situation, his normally jovial face growing more serious by the minute. Jesus, Mitch. I had no idea, Donnie said when Mitch finished. What can I do? I need you to help me protect the company, Mitch replied. Tiffany's going to try to get her hands on it in the divorce. We can't let that happen. Donnie's jaw set in a determined line. Not a chance in hell. We built this thing from the ground up. She's not getting a single share. Mitch felt a wave of relief wash over him. Thanks, Donnie. I knew I could count on you. As they discussed strategies to safeguard the business, Mitch's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Heard you need some digital security. I'm your guy. Call me. Johnny Terry. Mitch raised an eyebrow. He'd heard of Terry, a brilliant but reclusive cybersecurity expert. How Terry had heard about his situation, Mitch didn't know, but he wasn't about to look a gift horse in the mouth. He excused himself and stepped outside to make the call. Terry answered immediately. Mr. Fink, Johnny Terry here. I understand you've got a situation. Mitch cut straight to the chase. Can you secure my digital life? Emails, financial records, everything? Can do. I'll need access to your systems. Mitch hesitated for a moment, then made a decision. You've got it. Whatever you need. Smart man. I'll get to work immediately. Your soon-to-be ex won't know what hit her. As Mitch hung up, he felt the pieces falling into place. His team was assembled. Now it was time to go on the offensive. Back inside, he found Donnie looking troubled. What's wrong? Mitch asked. Donnie ran a hand through his hair. I didn't want to add to your problems, but we've got a situation at work. Frankie Pace is making moves. Mitch's blood ran cold. Frankie Pace was a ruthless competitor, always looking for ways to crush his rivals. What kind of moves? Looks like he's gearing up for a hostile takeover. He's been buying up shares left and right. Mitch's mind raced. This was the last thing he needed right now. But as the shock wore off, a suspicion began to form. Donnie, when did this start? Donnie thought for a moment. About 3 weeks ago, I'd say. Mitch's eyes narrowed. That timing was too convenient to be a coincidence. I need to make a call, he said abruptly, stepping outside once more. He dialed Sydney Best's number. Best, I need you to look into something for me. Check if there's any connection between Frankie Pace and Tiffany or her lover, Buddy Birch. There was a pause on the other end of the line. You think they're working together? It's a hunch. But the timing's too perfect. I'm on it, Mr. Fink. I'll get back to you as soon as I have something. Mitch hung up and went back inside, his mind whirling. If Tiffany was involved with Pace's takeover attempt, this was bigger than he'd imagined. She wasn't just after his personal assets. She was trying to destroy his entire professional life. Over the next few days, Mitch and Donnie worked tirelessly to shore up investor confidence. They made calls, held meetings, did everything they could to present a united front against Pace's advances. Meanwhile, Sydney Best's investigation bore fruit. He presented Mitch with a thick file of evidence linking Pace to Tiffany's lover, Buddy Birch. They've been in communication for months, Best explained. Looks like Birch has been feeding Pace inside information about your company. Mitch's fists clenched as he flipped through the file. Emails, phone records, even photographs of Pace and Birch meeting in out-of-the-way restaurants. This is industrial espionage, Mitch growled. Best nodded. Clear as day. You've got them dead to rights, Mr. Fink. Mitch's mind was already racing ahead, formulating a plan. He had the evidence he needed to fight back against both Tiffany and Pace. Now it was time to set a trap. With Johnny Terry's help, Mitch carefully leaked false information about his intentions to sign over the business to Tiffany. They crafted emails, memos, even a fake contract, all designed to make it look like Mitch was giving up without a fight. The bait was set. Now they just had to wait for Tiffany and Buddy to take it. They didn't have to wait long. Within hours of the false information being, accidentally, sent to Tiffany's email, Sydney Best reported movement. They've taken the bait. Best's voice crackled over the phone. Tiffany just met up with Birch at their usual hotel. They look celebratory. Mitch's lip curled in disgust. Get it all on video. Every second. Already rolling, Mr. Fink. We'll have them dead to rights. As Best worked his magic with the surveillance, Johnny Terry was busy on the digital front. He intercepted a flurry of emails and text messages between Tiffany, Buddy, and Pace. They're gloating, Terry reported, his voice tinged with satisfaction, planning how they're going to divide up your assets. It's all here in black and white. Mitch allowed himself a smile. Perfect. Keep collecting everything. I want an airtight case. Over the next few days, Mitch gathered a mountain of evidence. Video footage of Tiffany's affair, financial records showing her deceit, proof of her conspiracy with Pace and Birch, and, most damning of all, hard evidence of Tiffany's attempts to frame him for infidelity. As he reviewed the stack of files, emails, and video footage, Mitch felt a cold satisfaction settle over him. Tiffany and her co-conspirators had no idea what was coming. He picked up his phone and dialed Raoul's number. It's time, Mitch said when Raoul answered. Let's end this. Raoul's voice was sharp with anticipation. You've got everything we need? Everything and more. They won't know what hit them. All right, I'll set up the meeting. Get ready, Mitch. It's time to take these bastards down. As Mitch hung up, he allowed himself a moment of reflection. The past weeks had been a whirlwind of betrayal, anger, and calculated action. But now, finally, he was ready to reclaim his life. Let Tiffany, Buddy, and Pace think they'd won. Their victory would be short-lived. Mitch Fink was about to show them exactly who they were dealing with. With a steely resolve, Mitch began making the final preparations for the confrontation to come. The endgame was approaching, and he intended to emerge victorious. Mitch Fink stood in the sleek conference room of his company's headquarters, his face a mask of calm determination. Across the polished table sat Tiffany, Buddy Birch, and Frankie Pace, all wearing expressions of smug satisfaction. They thought they had won. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Well, Mitch, Tiffany purred, her voice dripping with false sweetness. I'm glad you finally came to your senses. Shall we get this over with? Mitch nodded, sliding a folder across the table. Of course. I've prepared all the necessary documents to transfer ownership of the company. Buddy reached for the folder eagerly, but Frankie Pace's eyes narrowed with suspicion. This seems too easy, he growled. What's your game, Fink? Mitch allowed himself a small smile. No game, Frankie. I know when I'm beaten. I just want to put this all behind me. Tiffany laughed, the sound grating on Mitch's nerves. Oh, honey, you should have known better than to try to outsmart me. I always get what I want. Is that so? Mitch's voice was quiet, but there was steel beneath the words. He pressed a button on a remote, and suddenly the room's screens flickered to life. The smiles froze on the faces of Tiffany, Buddy, and Frankie as they saw themselves displayed on the monitors. Video footage played, showing clandestine meetings, hushed phone calls, and damning exchanges of information. What the hell is this? Buddy sputtered, his face turning an ugly shade of red. Mitch's voice was cold as he replied, "This, Mr. Birch, is the end of your little conspiracy. I know everything. The affair, the financial fraud, the corporate espionage, all of it." Tiffany's eyes widened in shock, then narrowed dangerously. "You bastard," she hissed. "You've been spying on us?" "Oh, that's rich coming from you," Mitch shot back. "Considering you've been trying to frame me for infidelity this whole time." He tapped the remote again, and new footage appeared. This time it showed Tiffany meeting with a series of men, staging compromising situations, always with a conveniently placed camera nearby. Frankie Pace stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "This is all very entertaining, Fink, but you've got nothing concrete. It's your word against ours." Mitch's smile grew wider, more predatory. "Is that what you think, Frankie? Maybe you'd like to explain these to the board of directors." Another tap of the remote, and a series of emails filled the screens. Emails detailing the transfer of sensitive company information, the plans for the hostile takeover, all linked directly to Pace's personal account. The color drained from Frankie's face. "How did you? You should really invest in better cybersecurity," Mitch interrupted. "Now, let me make this very clear. I have enough evidence here to bury all three of you. Adultery, fraud, conspiracy, industrial espionage. Take your pick." The room fell silent as the gravity of the situation sank in. Tiffany, Buddy, and Frankie exchanged panicked glances, their alliance already beginning to fracture under the weight of Mitch's revelations. Buddy was the first to crack. "Look, Mitch, surely we can work something out. I mean, it was all Tiffany's idea." "Shut up, you idiot." Tiffany snapped, her carefully cultivated poise crumbling. Frankie Pace's eyes darted between Mitch and the door, clearly calculating his odds of making a run for it. Mitch held up a hand, silencing them all. "Here's what's going to happen. You have two choices. Option 1. You can face the full legal consequences of your actions. I'm talking criminal charges, civil lawsuits, the works. You'll be lucky if you see the outside of a prison cell before you're collecting Social Security." He paused, letting the threat sink in before continuing. Option 2. You sign the confessions I've prepared, admitting to everything. You'll still face consequences, but they'll be significantly less severe. Tiffany's laugh was brittle, desperate. "You're bluffing. You wouldn't dare go public with this. Think of the scandal, what it would do to your precious company." Mitch's eyes hardened. "Try me, Tiffany. I'd rather watch it all burn than let you vultures pick over the carcass." The three conspirators fell silent, the reality of their situation finally sinking in. They had severely underestimated Mitch Fink, and now they were trapped. Buddy was the first to break. "I'll sign," he mumbled, not meeting anyone's eyes. "Just make it quick." Frankie Pace glared at Mitch with undisguised hatred, but even he could see the writing on the wall. "Fine. You win this round, Fink. But don't think for a second this is over." Tiffany remained defiant to the last. "I won't give you the satisfaction," she spat. "I'll see you in court, you bastard." Mitch shrugged, unfazed by her bravado. "Have it your way, Tiffany. I'm sure the judge will be very interested in all of this evidence. Not to mention the press." As Buddy and Frankie signed their confessions with shaking hands, Tiffany stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind her. Mitch watched her go, feeling a mix of emotions he couldn't quite name. But regret wasn't one of them. He turned back to Buddy and Frankie, his voice cold. "Get out of my sight. You'll be hearing from my lawyers." As they slunk out of the room, Mitch allowed himself a moment of victory. The battle was won, But the war was far from over. He had a company to save and a reputation to rebuild. But for the first time in weeks, he felt like he was back in control. He pulled out his phone and dialed Raul's number. "It's done," he said simply when his friend answered. "Time to file those papers." Raul's voice was with satisfaction. "You got it, buddy. Let's nail that coffin shut." The next morning, Mitch strode into the courthouse, Raul Mason at his side. They made an imposing pair, Mitch with his steely determination, Raul with his shark-like grin and briefcase full of damning evidence. Tiffany was already there, flanked by her own legal team. She shot Mitch a venomous glare as he passed, but he didn't give her the satisfaction of a response. As the proceedings began, Raul laid out their case with surgical precision. He presented a mountain of evidence, financial records showing Tiffany's deceit, surveillance footage of her affair with Buddy, intercepted emails detailing their conspiracy. "Your Honor," Raul concluded, his voice ringing through the courtroom, "the evidence is clear. Mrs. Fink has engaged in a systematic campaign of infidelity, fraud, and conspiracy. We ask that the court grant Mr. Fink a divorce on the grounds of adultery, with full control of all marital assets." Tiffany's lawyer, a slick-haired man in an expensive suit, tried to counter. He spun a tale of Mitch as a neglectful husband, too wrapped up in his work to notice his wife's needs. He even attempted to present Tiffany's fabricated evidence of Mitch's supposed infidelity. But Raul was ready. With a predatory smile, he dismantled each accusation, exposing the lies for what they were. When he presented proof of Tiffany's attempts to frame Mitch, a murmur ran through the courtroom. Mitch watched as Tiffany's face grew paler with each passing minute. Her carefully constructed world was crumbling around her, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Finally, the judge cleared his throat. "I've heard enough," he said, his voice grave. "Based on the overwhelming evidence presented, I have no choice but to rule in favor of Mr. Fink. The divorce is granted on the grounds of adultery. Mr. Fink will retain full control of all marital assets." Mitch let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. But the judge wasn't finished. Furthermore, he continued, "Given the extent of Mrs. Fink's deception and financial misconduct, she is hereby ordered to pay substantial alimony to Mr. Fink." A gasp ran through the courtroom. Tiffany's face contorted with rage and disbelief. "You can't do this," she shrieked, jumping to her feet. "This is all lies. He's set me up." The judge's gavel came down hard. "Mrs. Fink, control yourself, or I'll have you removed from this courtroom. My ruling stands." As the reality of her situation sank in, Tiffany's anger gave way to despair. She slumped in her chair, all fight gone out of her. Mitch stood, buttoning his jacket. He felt a weight lift from his shoulders as he turned to leave the courtroom. Justice had been served. As he pushed through the courthouse doors, he was met by a barrage of camera flashes and shouted questions from reporters. The story of the tech mogul, the cheating wife, and the foiled corporate takeover was too juicy for the press to ignore. Mitch raised a hand, silencing the crowd. "I'll make a brief statement," he said, his voice carrying across the courthouse steps. "Today, justice was served. Not just for me, but for every honest businessman who's ever been targeted by corporate raiders and con artists. Let this be a lesson. Crime doesn't pay, no matter how clever you think you are." With that, he strode down the steps, ignoring further questions. He had a company to run, after all. In the weeks that followed, Mitch threw himself into rebuilding and strengthening his company. As news of the foiled takeover attempt spread, investor confidence soared. The company's stock price hit record highs, and new contracts poured in. Mitch implemented stringent new security measures, determined to prevent any future attempts at corporate espionage. He hired a team of the best cybersecurity experts money could buy, with Johnny Terry at the helm. Meanwhile, the legal fallout continued. Tiffany, Buddy, and Frankie found themselves facing a barrage of criminal charges and civil lawsuits. Their names became synonymous with corporate greed and marital betrayal, their faces plastered across tabloids and business journals alike. As the dust began to settle, Mitch found himself with an unexpected windfall from the alimony payments and legal settlements. After some thought, he decided to put the money to good use. He established the Fink Foundation for Victims of Fraud, dedicated to helping those who had been taken advantage of by con artists and financial predators. It was his way of turning the pain of his experience into something positive. One crisp fall morning, Mitch stood in his lab, putting the finishing touches on his latest robotics breakthrough. As he stepped back to admire his work, he allowed himself a small smile. He had faced betrayal on all fronts, personal and professional, and not only survived, but thrived. The future stretched out before him, bright with possibility. A knock at the door interrupted his reverie. It was Donnie, his business partner and friend. "Hey, Mitch," Donnie said, a grin spreading across his face. "The board wants to see you. Something about discussing an expansion into the European market." Mitch nodded, setting down his tools. As he followed Donnie out of the lab, he felt a surge of anticipation. This was what he was meant for: building, creating, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. The betrayal had nearly broken him, but it had also forged him into something stronger. As he stepped into the boardroom, ready to shape the future of his company, Mitch Fink knew one thing for certain. He was back, better than ever, and this time, he would face the future on his own terms.
This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy the story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.